Hey, congrats on grabbing the injury prevention guide for runners, quick and easy routine to run injury free by myself, Tony Johnson. And if you would like to follow me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, you can click on these links to check it out. And if you would like my team and I to help you implement this information and customize everything and be in your corner from start to finish, you can apply to work with me. If you want to check out some case studies, you can do that or watch our free training. Disclaimer: sharing, selling, or duplicating without my consent is prohibited. And here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about the big idea and why runners get injured. We're going to talk about the training plan structure. We're going to talk about strength training and how it's going to help with muscle balance and joint protection, stretches to do before and during and after your runs, sleeping and why that is so important, and then signs, symptoms, and prevention of common injuries. And then I'll talk a bit more about how we can help you on a one-on-one level. And so first, if you're new here, welcome. My goal with the injury prevention guide for runners is to give you easy stretches and routines that you can do while you are training so that you do run injury free, while also providing an insane amount of value, so that we do get to the point where potentially my team and I can help you out with your training. But first, my name is Tony Johnson. And over the last few years, I've ran multiple marathons myself, with my best marathon time being 3 hours and 34 minutes. But it wasn't easy. I've dealt with multiple injuries like shin splints and runner's knee. I had to take time off and even skip runs. And I knew that if I didn't change how I was training, that I was never going to be able to progress. I was always going to have injuries. And if you keep getting injured, then there's a chance where you have to defer your race or maybe quit running altogether. And I didn't want that to happen to me. And so it wasn't until I started taking a different approach to my training. Instead of running 5 times a week, I only ran 3 times a week. I really started to emphasize stretching and doing that before and after my runs. And I even changed how I was sleeping and had a routine when I was going to bed. And all these small changes really helped me with my training. I was able to run marathons. I do it every single year, multiple times a year. But most importantly, I have longevity with my running, and I'm able to stay healthy and be in shape. And the best part, this will also work for you too, just like it's worked for several of my clients, like Salma. She ran her first marathon 4 hours and 28 minutes. And that's after she had a pelvis stress fracture. She didn't think she would be able to run. We helped her get back into shape. We changed the way she was training. And because she was only running 3 times a week and strength training 3 times a week, she was able to run her first marathon. Same with Christine. She was coming off of rehab from cancer, lost all of her strength, wasn't able to run at all. And we helped her train for her first half marathon by only running 3 times a week, lifting weights 3 times a week. And so the big idea here, and this is why runners get injured, is how you train. Okay? Picture this. Let's say you are an older runner. You're 50 years old, 60 years old, maybe even 70 years old. You're training for your first half marathon or full marathon, or maybe you've ran a couple of races, half marathons or full marathon years ago, and now it's your first one in quite some time. Maybe you've run some races in the past, but life has gotten in the way. You haven't been as active. You haven't been able to run as much as you would want. And now you're just trying to get back into it. And your goal is to finish your race without getting injured. And there's really 2 training plans. Training plan number 1 here is the typical one, running 5 times a week. Let me edit this real quick. Running 5 times a week, high weekly mileage where you're running 40, 50 miles per week. You're running multiple days in a row where you run a Monday, a Tuesday, and a Wednesday. Little to no strength training where maybe you're just riding the bike, maybe you're just doing hand weights. It's inconsistent. Or training plan 2, you only run 3 times a week. It's every other day. A low weekly mileage, anywhere from 10 to 30 miles a week. You run, like I said, every other day, and you're strength training 3 times a week. So you're alternating between running and lifting. Which one of these plans do you follow? Well, the reality is, until now, everyone was following this training plan of running 5 times a week, but it was causing everyone to get injured, right? The truth is over 50% of all runners get injured. And so if you want to avoid getting injured, the first thing we have to do is change how you are training. And so training plan 2 is what I recommend. This is what I'm going to show you. And I know you have access to the starter kit, so this will break down even more detail. Because the truth is, over 50% of all runners get injured each year, and it's simply because they're following a training plan that doesn't align with their current situation. If you are just getting back into running, you're training for your first half or full marathon, it literally makes zero sense to follow the training plan that most people are following of running every single day. That much wear and tear on your body in such a short time is what's causing you to get injured. Your body just doesn't have time to recover. You're essentially going from 0 to 100, and you have to prevent injuries by training differently, okay? And so this is what I recommend in a bit more of a breakdown of what I'm talking about here is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you lift weights. Tuesday, Thursday, and then Saturday is when you do your runs, right? We're alternating in between. So Monday would be a push day, which is chest, shoulders, triceps. Tuesday is a medium run where you run at your goal marathon pace. Wednesday is a leg day, quads, glutes, hamstrings, calves. Thursday is a short, easy run at a comfortable pace. Friday, back and biceps as a pull day. And then Saturday is your long run. And if you're training for a half marathon, you run up to 10 miles. If it's a full marathon, you run up to 20 miles and then a rest day. And you have access to the starter kit. And so, if you have access to the starter kit, you can click here. It's going to break down this in way more detail of why you have to do what you do. But that's what the starter kit's for, not necessarily for this. But the premise here and the objective is that we have to adjust how we are training, reduce volume, reduce the amount of running you're doing, reduce the amount of wear and tear on your body, and then also increase the amount of strength training you're doing. And here's why strength training is so important. It's essential for injury prevention because it helps promote muscle balance, joint protection, and obviously injury prevention. So muscle balance and stability. If you only run, then you will only strengthen your running muscles, right? Muscles you use while running, but the other muscles in your body, they're not getting stronger, they're getting weaker. And it's because you're not using them. And this leads to muscle imbalances, which affects your overall balance, your running form, and increases the chances of injuries, right? For example, when you run, your quads are heavily engaged and utilized, but your hips and your glutes aren't as much. And so this is causing you to have strong quads, but have weak hips and glutes. That's creating the muscle imbalances between the two, right? What you use gets stronger, what you don't use gets weaker. And so the weaker muscles, in this situation, your hips and your glutes, have a higher risk of getting injured. That's why so many people have hip problems. And so to prevent this, you want to make sure you are doing specific isolated hip and glutes exercises because you're not able to really strengthen your hips and glutes to the point where it needs to be from running. So you have to do additional strength training exercises to really help strengthen your hips and your glutes. And then joint protection. Running puts a lot of stress on your joints, your hips, your knees, and your ankles. And strength training helps strengthen those joints and the muscles around those joints, which improves stability. And also it helps absorb the impact of running, right? And so by strengthening your joints and the muscles around your joints, that will also help reduce the chances of common injuries like tendonitis, stress fractures. And here are some strength training exercises you can do. You can do squats, leg press, walking lunges, dumbbell cannonball squats, barbell glute bridges, calf raises, quad extensions, and hamstring curls. And now if this is something that sounds like a completely different language to you, then I would recommend clicking here, go through the Marathon Training Starter Kit version 2, and it'll break down everything in a lot more detail. There's video demonstration, and so make sure you go through that. Now, on to the next thing, stretching. There are two types of stretches, dynamic and static. Before your runs, you want to do dynamic. After your runs, you want to do static. Dynamic stretches, the best way to think of it, are stretches while moving, which means you're moving around. And this helps increase blood flow and elevates your heart rate. Static stretches is the opposite, right? Non-movement stretches, which means you're doing them while sitting down or standing in place. And this Static stretching helps improve flexibility and then also can improve muscle recovery after your workout. And so here are stretches you can do before you run. Spend 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, just 5-10 minutes, quick and easy. Doing a few, anywhere from 2 to 4 exercises as a warm-up before you run, just to increase blood flow into your muscles. This is going to help prevent injuries. And it's also going to help you run faster just because it's not going to take as long for you to get warmed up. I mean, some people, it takes a couple miles for them to get fully warmed up. Well, if you can spend 5 to 10 minutes before you start running to get warmed up, well, then you're going to be able to hit the ground running on mile 1, okay? And so these are the dynamic stretches I do before I run. I'll start off with leg swings back and forth, and then I'll do leg swings side to side. And then I'll do open the gate hip opener. This just opens up the groin and a little bit of the glutes. And then I'll close the gate hip opener, and then walking knee to chest, where you kind of walk, you pull your knee up to your chest, you hold it for a second, and then I do standing calf raises. Now I'll do I'll do these stretches, each one twice, 10 reps for each. It's about 5 minutes. So I'll just go down the list, and then I'll repeat the list one more time, and that's all I'm doing, right? And then these are some more dynamic stretches you can do if you'd want. You can do standing calf raises, you can do hip flexor stretch, butt kickers, walking lunges, leg to butt pulls, grass pickers, high knees, air squats. You can do all these, but the point is, take 3 to 5 of these exercises, spend 5 to 10 minutes doing them before you run, just to get warmed up, get some blood flow, and it's going to help you reduce any injury. And then these are stretches you want to do after your run. Spend another 5 to 10 minutes doing a few static stretches. This will help improve recovery, flexibility, and mobility. This is what I do after I run. So I'll just kind of lay down on the ground, pull my knee up to my chest, seated spinal twist, which just kind of helps stretch the lower back there. Butterfly, which is great for stretching out the groin. Hamstring stretch, obviously for your hamstring, hips for your hips, and then standing quad stretch to help stretch my quads. Now I do each stretch just one time for about 15 to 30 seconds, and then more static stretches you could do, your hamstring stretch, and this is exactly how you would do it, holding each one for 15 to 30 seconds, quads, calves, hips. Now you can kind of go through these and pick a few. I mean, 3 to 5 stretches before and 3 to 5 stretches after you run is all you need to do. It's more so doing it consistently, right? Doing it one time is not effective, but if you do it every single day or every single time you run, well, then you're going to start to see the benefits of it. And so it's also important that you warm up before you lift weights. A lot of people just walk into the gym, they put weight on the bar, and then they start lifting. That is a great way to get hurt, especially if you're going super heavy and if you have no experience. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to get warmed up. So to avoid any injuries, spend another 10 minutes, give or take, getting warmed up. And this is literally what I do. So the first thing I do is I spend 5 minutes just doing some cardio, running, walking, riding the bike, Stairmaster. Any of these, I just pick one, 5 minutes. And then after that, I spend another 5 minutes using some hand weights, just some dumbbells, doing these exercises. So some flies, front raises, dumbbell bench press, dumbbell incline bench press, shrugs, bicep curls. I do these all very quick, 10 reps for each exercise, no rest in between. It's really just getting my upper body warmed up. Just making sure that my shoulder joints and all those muscles are activated and warmed up. And so when I do an upper body exercise or workout, I'm not dealing with any aches, pains, or anything like that. Now, if I'm training legs, I won't do this. I will only just do the cardio. But anytime I'm doing upper body, then I will do this routine here. And so let's talk about sleeping here. If sleep wasn't a normal everyday thing, then it would be a banned substance. That's how powerful sleep is. A UFC fighter said this. And so when you think about training for marathon, you're only thinking of the 1 to 2 hours while you're training. And we look at our distance, we look at our run, speed, pacing, strength. And when we have a bad run, maybe it's not 2 hours standard, well, then we often blame the training plan. We say things like, training plan doesn't work, I'm not getting faster. But the truth to progressing in your marathon training is you have to take into account the other 23-ish hours while you're not sleeping. So that includes sleep, that includes nutrition, that includes daily stress, that includes every other aspect that would affect your training, but sleep is arguably the most important. Sleep is essential for focus, performance, and recovery. It is recommended that we sleep 7 to 9 hours a night. And it's also important that we focus on the quality of sleep. So quantity is hours, quality is just how effective and how good it is, right? And so to get high quality sleep, we have to make sure that we have a routine. And so the routine that I would recommend and what I would follow, and you don't have to do all these, just a couple of them. One, no phone or TV an hour before bedtime. If you have a bunch of light in your eyes, it's going to affect your ability to fall asleep. No caffeine after 3 p.m. Right? If you're drinking a bunch of caffeine at night just to stay up, well, it's going to cause you to stay up, and it's going to be very difficult to fall asleep. And even if you do fall asleep, studies show that it affects the quality, right? So no caffeine after 3 p.m. Also, no food or water about 1 hour before bed. You don't want to be waking up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And you also don't want to be eating super late before bed because we want to focus on quality. And if your body has to spend time digesting that food while you're sleeping, it's going to affect the quality. It makes it easier to fall asleep if you take a warm bath or shower before bed. So you want to try to avoid any running or working out late unless you absolutely have to. Now, I like to work out at night, so I know this is kind of the opposite of what I'm saying here, but I prefer to work out at night just because it makes it easier on my schedule. And so I would rather you work out late at night than not work out at all, if that makes sense. But if you can, try to avoid running or working out at late. It helps if you read a book. Your mind is a muscle, and so you train your body to get stronger. And once you are training it, it gets tired, it gets fatigued, and it needs to recover. It's the same thing with your brain. If you read before and you exercise your brain, then your brain's going to be tired. It's going to want to rest. It's going to want to recover. And so it's great to read something before you go to bed. It'll make it a whole lot easier to fall asleep. And then you also want to listen to an audiobook or a podcast, especially if you're someone who constantly is thinking about things, all the stresses, kids, family, etc., and you're not able to fall asleep. What I found is listening to an audiobook or podcast, it directs your attention towards something different. Instead of laying there thinking about all the things that's going on, well, now you're listening to an audiobook or a podcast, which makes it easier to fall asleep. And then also you want to sleep in a cold, dark room, anywhere from 65 to 68 degrees. Makes it a lot easier to fall asleep. If you want to progress in your training, you have to take your sleep seriously. Okay. And so find a routine that works for you. You don't have to do all of these. It helps if you do all of them, but find some that work for you and stick with it. So now let's talk about injury signs, symptoms, and prevention. Yale conducted a study that said over 50% of all runners get injured. And so let's say 1,000 people watch this video, 500 of you guys are going to get injured training, okay? And so we have to make sure that we know injury signs, we have to know symptoms, prevention, okay? And so these are a list of the most common injuries, and here's what you do. So if you have Achilles injury, right, this is a common overuse injury from repetitive stress and strain, most often caused by repetitive jumping or running, which is one of the reasons why I don't recommend running every single day, because of the repetitive stress that you're putting on your Achilles while you're running, right? Most common in long distance runners and middle-aged athletes. And so if you're training for your first marathon, if you're middle-aged or older and you're doing long distance, this is a high chance, at least 50%, that you will injure your Achilles. And so here are some signs and symptoms to look for. If you have lack of flexibility or stiffness in your Achilles, if you have pain or tenderness in your heel, this is usually like a nodule. It's typically found 4 to 6 centimeters above your heel. Now, these are some exercises you can do. You can do dynamic stretches, which we talked about of the calf muscle, so standing calf raises. You can do standing calf raises with weight, which is actually what I recommend. A skips is just a form of a skip. You can take a look at that. Static stretching, right, for the calf muscle. So seated calf, like you're sitting down and you stretch out your calf, and you'd want to do a minimum of 60 seconds for each calf. And this is something I would do just about every single day. And some tips is 3 sets, 12 to 15 reps for each exercise. So if you are doing calf raises with weight, you would do standing calf raises, 3 sets, 12 to 15 reps. Now, you can go up to 70 to 85% of your max weight, but that's just a metric to measure. Now, shin splints, also another overuse injury. This is results from many factors, but the one that I found the most is overstriding, which results in heel striking. Okay, and so here are some signs and symptoms: inflammation or soreness in the leg. The most common one is pain in front of the shin. Right, and then you also feel, of course, pain while you're running. And here's what you can do: you can rest. It usually takes 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how bad it is. Standing calf raises, preferably with weight, and you would do this 3 to 4 times a week. What I've found is banded dorsiflexion stretches, which is where you are sitting down, you grab a band, a resistance band, you wrap it around your foot, you pull the band towards you so your toes are now facing you, and then you extend your foot out. And what that does is it's strengthening the muscles in the front of your shin. If you do that 3 to 4 times a week, plus you do standing calf raises, plus you adjust your running form, where instead of heel striking, now you're landing in the middle of your foot, which I will say it's a little awkward to make that transition. That was something I had problems with. I was training for, I believe it was the Austin Marathon. This was a few years ago. I was having shin splints, and it wasn't until I adjusted my running form, I started taking smaller steps, I increased my cadence, and I started landing in the middle of my foot, plus I was doing these exercises here, my shin splints went away. And so you'd want to do 4 sets, 12 to 15 reps for each exercise. Runner's knee, another common one, is overuse from running, and most common in females, but it's obviously common in males too. And so signs and symptoms: pain in the front of the knee, pain while overstriding, inflammation around the knee, and a lot of this is caused from weak glutes. And so what you want to do is you really want to strengthen your glutes with glute bridges, with a barbell, or you can do it with a dumbbell. I don't recommend doing glute bridges without any weight. It's just ineffective and really inefficient. Preferably, you would do it with a barbell, just because you can load more weight. Standing hip extensions with bands, lateral banded walks, that helps too, but this one is by far the best. And then also your running form. If you want to increase your forward trunk lean, which means just leaning forward a little bit more while you run, but glute bridges is going to make the biggest difference by far. And so you want to, some tips: increase your step rate. Now, you want to aim for a cadence between 170 to 180. Now, that's the recommended. It's going to take some time to get there, especially if you're at like 160 or 155 even. And so just try to gradually improve the amount of steps you take per minute between 170 to 180. Run softly. Too many people are just absolutely pounding their feet like they have bricks in their shoes while they're running. You want to run soft. You also want to make sure that you run with your knees apart. You don't want them, clicking each other. Make sure that your kneecaps are pointing straight forward, which you should be fine. And then decrease the stride length. Like I said, a lot of injuries come from overstriding, and so taking smaller steps, increasing your cadence, landing in the middle of your foot is definitely going to help too. The last thing is plantar fasciitis, right? Overuse injury. It's repetitive tears in the bottom of your foot. And so what we can do here, some signs and symptoms, is pain in the bottom of your foot, inflammation, or any type of soreness or stiffness. Exercises, the best one is actually rest. You can do some foot extrinsic exercises. You can stretch the fascia by dorsiflexing the ankle and extending the great toe. And so these are exercises you would want to look up and really figure out exactly what to do and make sure you're doing it correctly. Because, if you do have plantar fasciitis and it does get worse, I mean, you could have to go to physical therapy. You could be out for several weeks, maybe even several months. And so the best thing to do, like I said, from what I was saying initially, is making sure that you are training properly. You're not spending too much time putting wear and tear on your body from overrunning, right? You're giving your body time to recover. You're giving your body rest. You're focusing on getting stronger by strength training 3 times a week. This is going to solve majority of the problems. Now, if you decide to do this one, which I don't recommend, and you run every single day, then you do risk the chances of getting injured, at least significantly higher than if you did training plan 2. And so start here, run 3 times a week, lift weights 3 times a week, and then a lot of these injuries that we just went over here, you're not going to have to worry about. Now, if you are wanting help implementing what we talked about, well, we can help you out. You basically have 2 options. You can take what you learned today and try to implement it by yourself. No one to help you, no one to hold you accountable. And you're just stuck trying to figure it out through trial and error. And hopefully, maybe you figure it out, maybe you don't, right? Or you can, at the bare minimum, you can book a call with me and get a customized marathon training plan plus coaching with you, so that you actually do run your half and full marathon without getting injured. And now, unfortunately, most runners are just going to watch this video and not do anything. And most runners don't succeed. There's a reason why only 1% of people run a marathon, right? Most people don't even get close to it. And if they do, a lot of them struggle. And so to prevent that, we got to make sure you have a plan. You got to make sure you have a customized plan. And you got to make sure you have all the right tools and resources and systems in place so that you are able to run your marathon and then put yourself in a position to go on and run multiple marathons every year or whatever you want to do. And so if that is something where you would like my team and I to help you out, we have a coaching program. It's called the Ultimate Marathoner, and it will give you all the coaching support you need. So a customized half and full marathon training plan, customized strength training workouts, a handcrafted nutrition plan, your race strategies, a one-on-one onboarding call with me, 2 weekly coaching calls with me, one-on-one support calls with my head coach every month, my internal marathon training playbook. So think of this PDF times 10, and then a private community of runners who will also train for half and full marathons, right? Which means you'll have all the coaching support and accountability you need to easily run your half or full marathon injury-free in the next few months. Now, if you had that much coaching and support, how do you think you would do in your upcoming race? Right? Probably pretty good, right? And if you want the additional coaching and the support, you can click right here. You can go to this link, and it will take you to a page where you can schedule a call with me. I'll ask you a few more questions about your training, how is everything going, and then I'll break this down in a bit more detail, and I'll walk you through what it would look like us working together. Well, that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed the injury prevention guide for runners. If you implement this and then you get the coaching and support you need, you're going to be able to run your half or full marathon without getting injured. All right, see you.